Windows XP plus PAE plus 6 GB RAM. See more than 3.5 GB. Firstly, let me say I've seen a number of similar questions on SuperUser, and I don't think this is a duplicate. Most address 4 GB RAM installed. I have 6 GB. I have Windows XP 32-bit running on AI7 based Xeon system with 6 GB of RAM. I only see 3.5 GB of RAM in Windows. Is there any way to squeeze more visible RAM out of this setup? Even an extra 1 GB would be great. Does having 6 GB versus 4 GB of RAM installed help at all? Even if I lose the 3.5 to 4.0 GB region, can I use the area above it? PS will eventually move to Windows 7 64-bit, but can't for now.
No, you won't see more than 3.5 GB until you upgrade to a 64-bit operating system. If you need to use all 6 GB now, you will need to get that eventual Win 7 64-bit install now.
Even with physical address extensions enabled, Windows XP still allows only 4 GB of memory. I know this can be a little confusing since Windows Server 2003 allows up to 64 GB of RAM, with the proper processor support. Sadly, your OS is bounded to 4 GB in this case. The kernel may support up to 64 GB with PAE, but it is locked down in XP. It seems the only reason they still include it is for dep support. From physical address extension, PAE memory and Windows. Although support for PAE memory is typically associated with support for more than 4 GB of RAM, PAE can be enabled on Windows XP SP2, Windows Server 2003, and later 32-bit versions of Windows to support hardware-enforced data execution prevention, dep. Edit, I just want to add that this 4 GB cap includes dedicated video memory or memory set aside for our onboard GPU.
As near as I can understand, 32-bit processors natively have 4 GB, 2 to the power of 32-bit, of address space, period. Because of MIMO, memory mapped input-output, a portion of this space is also used to communicate with, and address the memory of, your peripheral devices, i.e. GFX cards. In order to support multiple memory-intensive applications and to compensate 8 GB plus mainboard support, Intel, and later, AMD, introduced PAE, physical address extension, to increase the addressing space to 48 bits, and later 52 bits, respectively. This is accomplished by sending memory addresses in 2+ chunks, dual-cycle addressing, the first 32 bits on one cycle, and the remaining bits on consecutive cycles thereafter. However, for this new framework to be utilized, hardware manufacturers had to integrate support for DCAR, aka DAC, into their respective products, typically requiring extensive hardware revision and special PAE-enabled drivers. Software also had to be rewritten to support large address awareness, allowing more than the default 2 GB of application memory space. Needless to say, because of the amount of software and hardware revision involved, and with the advent of 64-bit processors soon afterward, the technology, while popular in server and enterprise environments, never significantly penetrated the end-user market.
PAE, outside of dep, was disabled by SP1 or SP2. MS won't support it because so many applications can't handle it. It was left on for its server OS products because enterprise apps are generally written better and because 32-bit servers could use the RAM. PAE is pretty much useless outside of the server OSs. Even then it's of marginal utility. At most each process can only address a total of 4 GB anyway.
Sorry.